I sit down, I light one up, and pour myself a drink. And I have found that it picks me up, it gives me time to think. It's been a long day, you know it's true, but I'm feeling right at home. And now I must say that time is due. Let's get on with the show. Not just blowing smoke.
Is the text?
There we go. We got sound.
What, somebody not have sound?
We have sound now.
So do I have to start over again, Dave?
Yes, Dan.
I have to start over again. Again.
Okay, there we go. Here, hold on one second. We'll do this right. There we go.
Wait, so we weren't going?
Apparently not.
There we go. See, there we go.
Hello, everybody. See, it's always a crapshoot whether or not the sound is on. This is not just blowing smoke.
Again.
Again, and I'm totally befuddled now, Dave. You have totally thrown me off my game.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll just wing it. It's all good.
Welcome to Not Just Blowing Smoke. We're coming at you live from Twin Smoke Shops in Londonderry, New Hampshire. And
Saskatchewan, Canada.
if you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, I'm sorry. Just forgive us, okay? If you're listening after the fact, you won't know what's going on because I'm going to force Dave to cut all this crap out and have it go just the way it was supposed to go from the beginning. But no matter where you're listening, you know, whether you're listening on Podbean, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, or wherever else you got the podcast from, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't ever miss a thing. We may miss putting on the audio, but you don't have to miss the show. Right, Dave?
Yes.
Right,
Yep.
Dave?
That's right. Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
I'm Pastor Padron. I'm here with my co-hosts, Pat and Dave. We have Brett Bowersox here, who is from Aganorsa Leaf with us tonight. And we are smoking the Supreme Leaf Toro, the cigar that just dropped from Aganorsa Leaf just last week. It is a Nicaraguan Corojo wrapper, Nicaraguan binder filler. And it's a 6x52 Toro.
Yes, sir.
And this is the 6th year they've done the Supreme Leaf release, I think.
I believe this is the 6th release.
Sixth release.
Yeah, so some years there's been 2 releases annually. Some years there's only been 1 annually. I believe this year will probably
the
just be
sixth
1.
release.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And
Last
this-
year there was only 1 release, and I believe this year there's only going to be 1. Don't quote me on that. There may be a second, but I believe it's just going to be annually now.
Okay. And this is the first time in that 6 releases that it has not been a box press cigar.
Yes, sir. So far we've had a box press Robusto, Toro, the Bellicoso, and then there was the Corona Gorda as well. There's been 2 iterations of the Robusto. There was a 52 and a 54.
Now, have the blends all been the same for those?
Yeah,
Or
blend's
are
been
they
100%
different?
the same.
100% the same.
Yep, blend's 100% the same.
So 100% on all that tobacco is grown on Aganorsa's farms in Nicaragua.
Yeah, it's 100% tobacco from Aganorsa Leaf Farms.
Okay. And where did the Supreme Leaf name come from?
So as far as I know, legend has it
Legend has
that,
it.
again, I'm not a huge pop clothing buff, but apparently the clothing company called Supreme is where the idea came from, along with the kind of wacky color combinations.
Is that where the text style came from too? Is that from the clothing line?
You are asking the wrong person, Pastor. I have no fucking idea. Couldn't fucking tell you.
Do you know, Pat? You know everything about cigars.
I would think Pat knows everything about clothing. You might
He
have this
should.
one covered.
He should with the furry bear shirt.
That's the one thing I don't know. I don't wear Supreme.
Shit.
There you go. Well, that'll be a question. Maybe can you text Terrence?
What? Have you ever seen how Terrence dresses? You think he has any idea? Jake from State Farm?
No one knows. Jake from State Farm.
If you need help at Target, I'm sure
Yeah.
Terrence can help you.
Terrence from Aganorsa Farm. How may I help you today? Oh my God.
Thank God he's a good sport. Otherwise, the entire sales force would have been fired numerous times over at this point.
So this has always been a limited release.
Yeah, it's always been a limited release.
Once, twice a year.
Yeah.
Something like that. How many of these do they actually produce?
So this production
give it
run
away.
was 2,500 boxes, 10 counts. It's gone up substantially from the very initial run from the original TPE show was
Right.
only 510 count boxes of the Robusto.
Well, it's doubled in size since, yeah.
Oh yeah, substantially. It's much more. Well, from 500 to 2,500. So
Oh,
actually
yeah,
five-fold
yeah,
increase in
five-fold,
production.
five-fold.
And then
Yeah.
some years we were doing releases twice a year. So this year it's just gonna be once.
I'm just going to stay quiet. I don't know why I heard like it. Never mind. Let's just go. Move on.
Listen, it's gone up a lot.
It's gone up a lot. Yeah.
Still in the grand scheme of
It's gone
things,
up a
though, a
lot.
very small production.
The cigar's gotten a lot bigger since the original Robusto was released.
Hey, I didn't say that, all right?
No, no. Could have.
No.
Let's talk a little bit about the cigar, and then we'll talk about what we're pairing it with and all that in just a minute. Dave, do you want to dare talking about what you're getting from the cigar?
Getting a lot of cream, some earth, and there's like the sweet spice that goes along with it too. And the retrohale is real smooth. Just a slight white pepper on the retrohale that just kind of lingers there. That's
Yep.
about it. You know.
Pat, what about you?
It's really creamy. It has kind of like a brown sugar sweetness to it. It's kind of a white pepper. It was cagey when I first lit it because you have the Corojo 99
Closed
like
foot,
closed foot on it.
I love
Then-
that.
yeah.
I love that about the cigar.
Bravo.
And it has like a really light roast kind of coffee note to it as well. A little bit of earth. Yeah.
What do you pick up with it, Brett? Tobacco notes?
Yeah, pretty much. Tastes like dried out rolled up leaves. Really good expression of Aganorsa Leaf tobacco. Has the sweet and spicy characteristics of the Corojo. A little bit of that Criollo backbone in there as well, so you get that earthiness, that little bit more body to it as well. Just a really nice balance between the two tobaccos. I prefer the Corojo a little bit more, and this has a little bit more Corojo in it, especially being the Corojo 99 wrapper, so you get a little bit more of that creamy, sweet,
the
spicy
Corojo.
characteristic
Yeah.
of the Corojo.
Yeah, baby.
Now, you've got Rare Leaf, you've got Supreme Leaf, you've got the normal leaf.
Yep.
You know, what they're calling it then now, the valediction line.
Validation.
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 Validation. Validation.
It's a lot of leaves.
Now, this, for whatever has really caught it. It is one of the fastest moving cigars that you guys put out.
Yep.
What makes this so hot?
For me personally, I think it's really just, it's a more intense blend than a lot of the stuff in our validation series. It just kind of kicks things up a notch. Obviously, the limited nature of the product as well always helps. And I really think, honestly, the packaging, when I initially saw the packaging, I thought it was a prototype.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even think that was the real band. I'm like,
I brought my kid to work there.
yeah, I'm like, all right, somebody's going some flashy colors for the prototype band, but
But
it
regarding
came out
that,
way.
I have to say, when people ask for it, they don't remember the name, but they remember the colors and the flashiness of
That's
the
true.
box. And they're like, that cigar that had this box? It was this color, orange and purple. I think it was weird, and it was awesome. It was the best cigar I ever smoked. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one that the boss has me on, because when we first came out with Supreme Leaf, I was like, I saw the boxes, I saw the bands. I called up Terrence. I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is never going to sell. And then what happened? Like 2 months later, it's like the hottest thing on the market. He calls me up. He's like, yeah, what do you think of the packaging now? I'm like,
I
never
love
mind.
it.
I'm like, I'm never saying shit about packaging again,
Yeah.
ever.
It's crazy. I mean, I can't remember how many boxes we got, but here at Twins, we're almost sold out.
Yeah. What it really is, I mean, when I saw it in person, it definitely made a lot more sense, because the colors really pop in person.
Yes.
When you're just looking at it in a picture, it's kind of like, it doesn't really.
It kinda almost looks tacky.
Yeah, exactly. It looks a little flat. When you see it in person, in those boxes, with the bands on it, the contrast, I mean, it really pops. It's almost impossible to miss it in a walk-in humidor, and obviously, that helps.
Very true. So let's talk about what we're having with it. We're doing the Clover single barrel that's available at the 724 Lounge. Brett is enjoying the Illy Cold Brew Nitro with his cigar. Both excellent pairings. I'm really enjoying the Clover. And it's funny,
Still don't.
There we go.
Hopefully, it was just before when it wasn't on, right?
I think so.
It's going now.
Cream House.
going now.
There's still no, what happened? There's no audio?
Well, I don't know what he was saying, but
He was saying there was no audio on YouTube.
Well, we didn't have audio there for a second, so hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully that's the part that he caught.
That should be all. That should be all fixed.
yeah.
Are you chatting with some lady on your phone there, Pat?
I'm looking something up where Supreme came from.
Oh, okay. So what we're drinking is the Clover. Now, is this a whiskey, a bourbon, a Scotch, Pat? Is the Clover? It's a bourbon, right?
It's yeah, it's a bourbon.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny that, I've had the Clover that you can get in the store. It's not near as flavorful as the single barrel that we have here at the shop. Single barrel is very, very good. And I'm really enjoying how it's pairing with the cigar. Have you tried it yet?
I'm about to right now.
Yeah, it's just there's a sweetness to this that really kind of ramps up the sweetness of the cigar, but there's also the spice in the bourbon is also picking that up too. So those wood notes, everything about the cigar gets amped up with the bourbon. It's really, really nice. I can only imagine how the coffee would go with it too. Coffee goes with just about everything. If it's a tobacco, you drink coffee, you're gonna have a great pairing every time.
Whenever I drink the clove, I get like a kind of a sweet green tea leaf note out of it. And then in the cigar, it's because you have like that little bit of spice. It's not a lot of spice in the clove. I think it's pretty mild when it comes to that. But it's enough to kind of get your palate fresh and ready to go.
Yeah.
So then it opens up the cigar a lot more. It doesn't really change too much. And then unless it's the finish where I get like a more of a floral sweetness with the creaminess of the cigar, just because of that tea note that comes out of the bourbon.
So what were you able to find out in your search?
I couldn't. I was gonna ask what Max and the Cubans means, because that's what the translation is.
Yep. So Max is Eduardo Fernandez's son. So he's actually next in line, and he's really getting very hands-on at the factory. He's always coming up with new blends, and he's really our big tobacco guy at this point. So he will be the next owner when Eduardo decides to retire. And the Cubans is basically that story is that when we started our operations back in the 90s, we brought over 5 Cuban agronomists, basically farmers, blenders, people that knew tobacco in Cuba. Our original master blender was Arsenio Ramos. He worked for Cuba Tobacco for 25 years. He was one of the blenders of Cohiba. So we brought over some guys with some pretty good pedigrees.
The Cuban Cohiba, not the general Cohiba.
Nope. Siglo. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where Max and the Cubans comes from. It was blended by Max
Big
and
difference.
the Cubans. What happened?
I just said big difference.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Between the Cuban and the Dominican Cohiba.
Yeah, slightly.
Slightly.
Yeah, slight
Yes. Yep. So how did you end up with Aganorsa? How long have you been with them now?
So it's actually year 5 with Aganorsa now. How I ended up at Aganorsa was thanks to Mr. Terrence Riley. We're going to have to give him some accolades tonight, some props, unfortunately. We usually just bust his balls, but
We can
basically,
do that. We can do that. He
yeah.
can take it.
he can definitely take it, that's for sure. But started working with Terrence about, I think, it was probably about 10 years ago. We were together at Casada
Got it,
Cigar.
right? Yeah.
Yep, and then, unfortunately, some things happened with Terrence and the Casadas. I mean, nothing personal, I don't believe. I don't know the story, but he decided to move on. And pretty much when he moved on, he went over to Aganorsa Leaf. Myself, I am an independent cigar representative. I do not work in-house for a company, so pretty much if somebody approaches me, I can sell essentially whatever I like to.
Okay.
Terrence approached me once he moved over to Aganorsa Leaf. He said, hey, we're looking for representation in your territory. Would you be interested in taking on Aganorsa?
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, at first I was a little concerned.
Yeah.
'Cause at the time, it was the only thing I really knew about it was great cigars. Nobody ever heard of them. And a ton of huge ring gauges. It was like the 8x80 Lunatic, and I was just like, I don't want to sell that stuff, man. But Terrence convinced me. He's like, you're not going to regret this. Come on over. He's like, we'll make it work out. And he was 100% right. This company, we've absolutely blown up every single year. Sales just keep on doing this.
Yeah.
Thanks to accounts like you guys. So, I mean,
Well, thank you. I mean,
You guys make it kind of easy, though.
yeah.
grown a lot with us. We're one of the fastest growing companies we had last year.
Yeah, I mean, with a brand like this, I mean, if you really think about how many companies are there within the cigar industry that are truly vertically integrated, there's very few.
Yes, that's true.
And I mean, to be a part of that, I mean, that's one thing I really look for these days if I'm looking for a brand to take on my own portfolio, is vertical integration or as close as possible to vertical integration, because there's so few that really do everything from seed to ash. And Aganorsa is not just one of them. I think it's one of the premier examples of vertical integration in the industry. As you can see from all the tobacco they sell to other manufacturers.
Have they ever brought you down to there to see how their get up and everything?
Oh,
and
yeah.
how it works and all that?
Yep, been down to Nicaragua. Hoping to go back soon. And one thing, once you've been at a cigar factory, you've kind of seen them all. I mean, some of them are nicer than others, blah, blah, blah. Some have more rollers, some have less rollers. There's little differences in processes, but for the most part, you walk into the rolling gallery and it's kind of, the same thing's going on. Difference with Aganorsa is really going out to the fields and the farms, seeing the agricultural side of the operation. Yeah, it's just mind-blowing. The amount of employees, the manpower, still using oxen plows to till the lands. It's wild to see. And irrigation lines, everything like that. I mean, it's truly old world done still.
Always hearing all that, it always makes me wonder how they charge like $10 for a cigar.
Yeah, with all the thousand, you hear that 300 hands, touch a cigar on average. A company like Aganorsa, I was just down at Aladino. It was triple or quadruple that for employees who work there. I mean, it's ridiculous the number of people it takes to bring this off.
Yeah, I think we have about 3,000 employees.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy nuts.
Yeah, it's really just, I mean, we're talking 2,500 plus acres of tobacco fields. You know, different farms, different regions, locations. I mean, it takes a lot of manpower. Like I said, not even just, you know, picking tobacco, sorting tobacco. Like one of the wildest parts, one of the things that always stuck with me was actually the sorting room. Basically, where we sort, devein, and classify tobacco. When we went in there, initially we got, you know, it's a large warehouse. There's probably 50, 60 people in there, and all they're doing is sorting tobacco and deveining tobacco. It's basically, you know, went to Terrence, it's like, is this a year-round operation? And Terrence is like, he's like, I believe it's only during harvest. And then our Eduardo stepped in. He's like, no. He's like, we grow so much tobacco that these people are literally nonstop year-round doing nothing but sorting tobacco leaves.
Even though the harvest, you know, happens once, maybe twice a year.
Yeah, it takes that long that they're just constantly doing
amazing.
it year-round.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts. So what's, you know, you've said, and I was around when Aganorsa was, you know, start with JFR and trying to get things off the ground. You know, I think I've known you since you joined with them.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, what was the biggest challenge with trying to get it into stores for you?
I would say the biggest challenge initially was that a lot of people had respect for the company. That was never an issue.
Right.
But along with that came a lot of people tried the product. They would sell it in their stores because they knew what Aganorsa was. They'd heard about Eduardo's reputation. They knew the tobacco and the product was good. The problem with that was that basically the infrastructure behind it wasn't there.
Okay.
You know, really like a sales force, obviously. They're like, how do we sell the product? It's like, yes, it's a great product. Can we just put it on the shelves and it's just going to go on its own? And that's what you always hope for. But
what you want.
Let's face it, unfortunately, that's typically not the case.
Right.
There's got to be some sort of processes involved to really get a product going. And, you know, the company really had no sales manager, no sales force whatsoever when we came on board. So that made it tough in the beginning. But on the flip side, that's a beautiful thing because we didn't have to worry about the quality of the product.
Right.
And that's obviously a much harder thing to have dialed in.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how good your infrastructure is if the product isn't there, isn't available. If you're, you know, like you said, I mean, being vertically integrated is so. It's such a key point that can separate you from your competition, because if you're depending on 3 or 4 different other companies to make your boxes, to make the bands, to put everything, you've got all those different ways where things can break down.
Yeah.
So
Not to mention, if there's an issue, it can get corrected faster.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, what's harder? You know, setting up 3,000 acres of tobacco fields, thousands of employees, 3 different cigar factories, or finding a dozen numbskulls to sell the cigars for you in America. It's, you know, one thing's quite a bit harder to pull off than the other. So obviously having that side of it already taken care of, and not just taken care of to the extent that Eduardo does things. Obviously, we were set up for success for sure.
So obviously, Aganorsa is one of the highlights of your package that you know, of all the brands that you carry and stuff
absolutely.
like that. What is it that makes it a standout to you? What makes Aganorsa stand out from the crowd?
It really, again, it's just quality of the product at the price point that it's at. And again, I mean, putting in those sales processes, you know, the things on the back end that you just don't see, that, you know, I think we've really excelled at over the last 5 years. I mean, that makes it much easier for you guys to sell it as well, put it in the customer's hands. You know, you believe in the quality. So, I mean, those things make it obviously substantially easier. And again, even if you guys aren't hand selling it, you know, somebody comes in, I mean, JFR 6x60 is still, you know, $8 MSRP, $8.49 MSRP. Let's face it, there's not that many cigars like that on the market anymore.
No,
So
there's so few cigars that are really good, consistently good for under $10. They're there, but they're not near as many as they were before.
yeah, and even like the Validation series, our new updated core line, it's like most of those, even the Grand Toro size 6x58, are around $10. Which again, these days, it's like, you know, when I first started selling cigars, the sweet spot was like $5 to $7. Then it went to $7 to $9. Then it was like $9 to $11. And I feel like over the last couple of years through COVID, it's more sweet spots like 12 to 15.
Yeah.
And pretty much 90% of our portfolio comes in at under $12. So being able to get that level of a smoking experience at high quality of a product at a price below the competition, I know it kind of takes the romantic side of cigars out of it a little bit, but at the end of the day, high quality product at a great price point. It's
There you
a
go,
recipe
baby.
for success. Is what it is.
Now, recently, Aganorsa did a major restructuring of packaging boxes, and you all went from 20 count to, is it
We
50?
still need to figure out the box counts. One day we'll
yeah.
get that figured out. We're
know.
still all over the damn place on that. But
Now it's the specials are really, well, in the what is it, 15 count in the regular
yeah,
series?
so the validation series is 15 counts. The new anniversarios are 10 counts, except for the Lancero, which is a 16 count. Rare Leaf's a 15 count. Supreme Leaf is a 10 count. And then JFR is 50 counts, 30 counts. Lunatic 28 counts, 30 counts on the jackhammer size. So yeah, we're still all over the place
Still
on
all over
box
the place
counts.
on that.
But the one thing that we do have uniform going on is we are getting the Aganorsa logo integrated into all the packaging. Everything looks much more cohesive. So
Yeah. Has the logo caught on? Are people excited about it?
yeah, absolutely. I think you could really tell that with the validation series when we repackaged that and relaunched that earlier this year. 'Cause, we've had those same exact products on the shelves. They might have been in different sizes, but the blends are not changed whatsoever.
Right.
It's basically same exact cigar, new packaging, and we've definitely seen an increase in volume of sales for sure, just from the revamped packaging.
That was what I was going to say. Is, yeah, they went from 20 count to 15 count.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off before.
Validation.
Yeah, validation.
Validation series. But it seems like that once everything got uniform, the sizes got uniform, the boxes were uniform, it just seemed to move better. Just putting the stuff into a consistent packaging that popped.
Yeah, before it was kind of confusing because they all had that one core line Aganorsa band, but it wasn't really that easy to read Aganorsa on it. Then they all had different secondary bands that again were different layouts. Like the Habano had that gold bands, the Corojo had the black and gold, but a completely different design.
Yeah.
So I mean, they didn't really look cohesive whatsoever. Then Connecticut was a 20 count, Habano was a 15 count, Corojo and Maduro were all 15 counts, but again, the Connecticut was 20, and the sizes were all over the place. Like Habano had a Torpedo, a Short Churchill, along with the Robusto Toro and Titan. But then like Corojo was Robusto Toro, Torpedo. There's no Titan, there's no Churchill. Then Connecticut, Robusto Toro, Churchill, no Titan, no Torpedo. So it was just a bit of a mess. So now we're just Robusto Toro, Grand Toro across the board, 15 count boxes. And again, pretty much the bands are exactly the same on all of them, same design, just different colors. Much easier to understand.
Yeah, and they pop too.
Yeah, they definitely pop.
And the boxes fit great on the shelves too, which is also
Yeah, absolutely.
plus.
The 15 count boxes, I think, is like awesome. So like with the rare relief, that's like
Rarer leaf.
the rare leaf. That's like it's such a
That's a
huge.
good next one, actually. I like that.
It's
Come out
such
with
a-
rarer leaf.
rare leaf. It's a,
That'll be the next one. We came up with the next thing, Terrence. Did you hear it? The rarer leaf.
yeah.
Supremer leaf.
The Supremer leaf.
But it's such a good sell to like people coming in for like weddings and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because I can show them like this, or if you want to get something really good, you can get this, because it's like it's like $50-$60 left in something that's 20 count box.
Well,
Yeah.
The price point makes the box buy very appealing.
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
Whereas most, I can, as I, one of the banes of my existence in my position right now at Twins is doing all the price updates for as things come out, and so many boxes that were under $200 have now gone past that $200 mark. And so to be able to get a box of cigars for $140, $150, it is a big deal. If you're buying it for a gift, if you're having it for a wedding, like you said, Dave, for that presentation, for it to come in the box. It's
To get an
easy
award-winning
sell.
freaking cigar of the year for like less than $200, it's like a no-brainer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I got a question for you guys.
All right, sure.
I'm not sure when the last time was that you smoked a rare leaf, but which do you prefer, rare leaf or Supreme Leaf?
Rarely.
Rare leaf.
Yep.
That was quick, Pat. Why did you pick rare leaf?
I don't know, I've always liked it more. This iteration of Supreme Leaf has been my favorite one. I think
Same.
it's because it's not box pressed. I don't know. I don't.
Well, that
I don't
that was my
dislike
next,
box pressing.
That
though.
was my. I'm a box press guy. I like a box press cigar, but for whatever reason, this, you know, round Vitola just really pops. And if it's the same blend, like you're saying, each of these releases has been the same thing, just different size.
Yep.
This really makes it pop to
Yeah.
me. I mean, do you guys agree? Has this it's been the fastest moving thing too.
I feel like it's been the smoothest and the creamiest.
I think it's
me.
been the spiciest.
On the retro hail, it definitely has
I
a
think
lot
it-
of
I
intensity.
think it's been the woodiest. It's all around just awesome.
Yeah. The two for me are definitely this one, and my favorite before that was actually the box press Bellicoso, which is for me is odd because I am not a box press person,
Okay.
and I am not a Bellicoso person. But
What
for some
made-
reason, that one just fired on all cylinders. Really, in the not to jump ahead of you, but pretty much the same way this does. It's very creamy, it's very smooth, it's very
Yeah.
easy on the palate, but it still has that intensity
Tons
of flavor.
of
Tons
yeah.
of flavor.
And the retro hail is huge on it.
Yep. Absolutely.
The rare leaf is a little bit deeper flavor, and that tends to be more where my palate tends to go. So, you know, if I were honestly, if you handed me this cigar and a rare leaf cigar, I would have a very
Came
hard
prepared.
time saying which would I rather have.
Yep.
I would super enjoy both. Other variations of Supreme Leaf, I would go this, you know, without really thinking twice. Not that it isn't a good cigar, I don't enjoy it, but this is more my palate.
Yeah.
But this has something going for it that this is the best thing from Aganorsa I've had in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and again, very similar to what you're saying, I leaned a little bit towards Rare Leaf over Supreme Leaf. I think Rare Leaf's a little more subtle, a little bit more nuanced, where Supreme Leaf is definitely a little more intense, a little more in your face. Again, far from a strong cigar. It's not
No.
it's not a 9 or a 10 out of 10 strength level whatsoever. But I mean, Rare Leaf for me just always, man, the flavor on that thing, it's just so easy on the palate. You can smoke 2 to 3 of them back to back, just no problem. The complexity in that cigar is absolutely excellent. But again, now smoking this one in Parejo form instead of box press, might have to reconsider. I'm going to go back to my Rare Leaf after I'm done with this. And
Rare leaf.
yeah, and go to the Rare Leaf. And
I'm big on the fact that the rare leaf is regular production for selected retailers, so it's always accessible. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Even though
Like,
it's rare, it's just released staggeredly, right?
if you
Yeah.
do,
Yeah, that's
well,
beautiful.
when Rare Leaf comes out, we're-
like, I think when you do like a limited production cigar, it's easier to utilize better tobacco, I guess. Not that there's better tobacco in the Supreme Leaf than the Rare Leaf, but seeing that the Rare Leaf is as good as it is, and it's something that we can get at all points, you know, that's why to me it stands out more than the Supreme Leaf, because you know they're always there, and it's, to me, it's, I mean, we can all kind of agree it's equal. You know, it's hard to kind of choose.
It's a very
between.
good quality cigar, yeah, and but it's been funny as these things have come out. Each time we get it, it seems to go faster than the time.
Yeah, there was a cult following for it.
You know, and you know, I remember when we put them out, there were several people. There were people calling up asking, you know, has the Supreme Leaf
We
dropped
get those
yet?
wacky colored
Has the
boxes
Supreme
in
Leaf dropped yet? and I'm like,
Has that
no,
fucking
it's
purple
coming,
thing showed
it's
up
coming,
yet?
It's coming. It's coming. It's not ready yet. It's the waiver. And so the day that they dropped and got onto the shelf, I mean, boxes went right off the top. People were not buying singles; they were buying boxes of it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah,
You
I think this one, having a full year off as well, I think it definitely makes a difference in the demands. I mean, Supreme Leaf, even Rare Leaf as well. I mean, obviously, like, these are items. So, not to jump ahead of myself, but for us at Aganorsa, it's not like we grow a ton of different tobacco. Pretty much 99% of what we grow is 2 seed varieties. It's Corojo 99, Criollo 98. So what makes Rare Leaf rare is really that it's just tobacco from an excellent growing season that our blenders coveted. They're like, let's set this aside for a special project.
Okay.
It's not some wacky new seed variety. You know, we
It was
didn't.
a good season. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really just, like I said, those Cuban agronomists that we brought over almost 30 years ago, like, this is excellent tobacco. This is stuff that's prime. We should sit on this for a while, save this for a special project. So that's really how we operate. But yeah, again, like I said, there's really, you know, not, you know, some ridiculous like, you know, this tobacco was, you know, from Vietnam or something like that, you know.
That's why I like the rare leaf, is because like a lot of brands will make their, you know, top shelf cigar, and it'll be so different than like their origins. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the rare
absolutely.
leaf, you know, like when I feel like smoking an Aganorsa, I want a certain profile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I smoke an Aganorsa, I'm looking for that, but then maybe I want something with more nuances to it. So you go to like the top shelf option, which the rare leaf is still like $13-ish. It's not a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, you're getting those core Aganorsa flavors, but then you're getting those subtleties that you're looking for when you jump the shelf, you know, to the upper shelf. And that's why I like it so much. You know, there's other brands where their top shelf cigar is different than the core line that I enjoy, and I'm like, what am I smoking right now?
Yeah.
But then with the rare leaf, it's like I'm comfortable, but it's also exploring at the same time.
Yeah. One of the analogies that we use is basically, you know, we're a whiskey bar. You know, you go to a lot of bars and there's, you know, there's rum, there's vodka, there's gin, you know, there's craft beer, there's
Gotcha,
wine,
gotcha.
there's so much. So we just do whiskey. So basically, you kind of know what you're going to get now. There's all sorts of different variations of that, ways we can change that up. But essentially, you know what that backbone flavor profile is going to be. You know what you get. So that's really how we operate. Again, just using 2 seed varieties of tobacco. We don't have a ton of variation. So, but it's really just, like I said, doing it the old world, old fashioned way of, you know, this tobacco from this plot, from this season, tastes different from, you know, a plot in a different region from, you know, somewhere else in Nicaragua, even though it's the same seed variety. We have almost infinite flavor combinations just from using really 2 different tobaccos across, again,
And
said,
then a
different growing
question I
regions.
had was the validation series. I know what validation means, but what is the like why call it the validation series? Like, what does that pertain?
So we used to, well, we still do it actually. Actually, I'm not even 100% sure what Mr. Palmer's title is. I believe he's VP of the company. But Paul, basically, whenever we would get a shipment in from Nicaragua, essentially he'd crack open a box of cigars, and he always smokes one. We call it validating. You had to validate the shipment. So it actually kind of became like a running joke at the company, because pretty much any time like something new and like rare showed up,
Yeah.
you know, pretty much Terrence and Paul would, you know, snap pictures of them smoking it and, you know, text it to all of us and be like, ha ha ha, you know, we're validating a new product. And, you know, obviously everybody in the Facebook groups and the salespeople will get pissed off.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty much just, you know, Terrence does it every time with Supreme Leaf. He smokes Supreme Leaf for like a fucking month before they ship to retailers. So, but again, validating literally just came from essentially, like I said, when a new shipment comes in, you want to validate the product. So obviously you can't be down in Nicaragua watching every single cigar get made. So when it shows up, before you start sending it to retailers, crack open a box, smoke a couple, make sure everything's on the up and up, then you're ready to send. So we call that validating the product. That's where the validation series came from, because again, it kind of became a running joke amongst essentially the sales force initially, and then Aganorsa Leaf fans as well started catching on to it as well. So if you go on the Aganorsa Acolytes Facebook page, you'll see a lot of people oftentimes posting up a picture of them smoking a, you know, Aganorsa Leaf product and be like, validated. And that's basically them saying that, you know, play on the words, but pretty much I validated this cigar. There's enjoying Aganorsa Leaf products. That's where the validation series came from.
That's a cool story, yeah. It's nice to see, you know, it's so often too how, you know, when a company can take a, you know, either something that, you know, FedEx did it, you know, Federal Express, everybody was calling them, you know, FedEx, and now all of a sudden they rebranded themselves that, what people were calling them. So to be able to take the slang, the joke or whatever and say, hey, let's turn this into a brand.
Kind of like United Parcel Service.
People are doing it. People are doing it for us, you know, and you know that's really cool. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the company listening and kind of owning the, you know, what people are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, like I said, especially coming from, you know, just seeing what it's turned into, you know, Aganorsa and fun things like validation. Not to knock out, it used to be, but before it was pretty mundane. Plus, you know, Casa Fernandez, and a lot of the cigars said Miami on them as well on the band.
Right,
So
I remember that too.
people were like, oh, AJ Fernandez, I love those. And it's like, no, it's not that. And then somebody would see one that says Miami on the band, be like, oh, Miami Cigar Company, I love those. And it's like, no, it's not that either.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
So now to like try and explain it to people. It's
it
just,
simplified everything so much when it became Aganorsa Leaf. It was like, okay, now this is its own brand. Nobody else can confuse us with anything.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, obviously on the consumer level, most people had no idea what the hell Aganorsa was. But within the industry, pretty much everybody knew what Aganorsa was. So, not the easiest name to pronounce.
No.
But from within the industry, it's a name that carries a lot of weight for sure.
And then one of my last questions was, so our 25th anniversary cigar is a Corona.
Yep.
And I've realized in your lines, you guys don't, I mean, HVC is an exception, but it's something, one of the private labels you guys make, but you guys don't make like a core line Corona.
Nope.
And after smoking our Corojo Corona, I'm like, why are they not doing this?
I'm with you. I'd like to see some Coronas for sure. Who knows? I mean,
That could be the rarer leaf.
That's the rarer leaf. Yeah.
it very well could come out at some point. I couldn't tell you for sure. That's above my pay grade. It is a natural size that if we were going to add another size, I think that's the size that we probably would add because like the Robusto is almost kind of like a double Robusto. The Toro's a little large for a Toro. The Grand Toro covers a bigger ring gauge. I don't think we'd do validation series in like a 770 or something like that.
I don't
So
see
if we
that.
were going to add a fourth size, said you're probably not going to go like Lancero or like Petite Corona. So I think if they were going to add a fourth size down the road, it probably would be a smaller ring gauge format like that. But again, I'm not 100% sure. But it's got my vote, that's for sure.
What did you like about the Twins anniversary cigar?
It's just, I'm a Corona guy. I don't know. I feel like it just pops more. Like again, like me, I like that kind of like on the retro, that spice, and because you're getting more of that Corojo wrapper, you're getting that sweet spice more prevalent on that blend. And, I mean, I did smoke the Grand Toro the day I smoked the Corona, and they're both really, really solid cigars, and it's just, and there's perks to each one, but it's just the Corona, and it's so hard to make a good Corona. Like there's a lot of, I mean, I read it like a year ago that the Corona is actually the hardest Vitola to make.
Well, why is that?
It's just the bunching and the size, the amount of leaves you need for the Corona. It's like you need a little bit more than, I mean, a Lancero is the hardest size, but it's not something that anyone really practically makes, so when it comes to traditional sizes, I'll call it, the Corona is the hardest one to actually make. Which oftentimes, like if I really like a line or a blend, I'll smoke the Corona and see how it smokes, because to me, that's how you can really test the expression of the blend.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then see how well the company is, because if they can make a really solid Corona, then they can do the Robusto, the Toro.
Right. If they can do the most difficult thing, then.
Which is
hopefully
why
they can do
it's just
things.
funny that Aganorsa doesn't have Coronas, because like that Corojo Corona is just phenomenal, and I'm just shocked.
Yeah, it is kind of funny because it's like, again, going back to, kind of how we got started, bringing over so many people that actually worked for, Cuban tobacco, and obviously working with traditional Cuban style Vitolas, a lot of Patellas, Coronas, double Coronas, Lonsdales, those kinds of sizes, where a Robusto is really almost their Gordo. It is kind of unusual that we don't do a ton of those, or at least more smaller ring gauge formats. Again, going back, like, I've only been doing this for a little over a decade, but I remember when I first started that the size that people would use for test blends and blending was a Corona. And now since, unfortunately, we had to Americanize everything, bigger is better, now pretty much all test blends are Robustos and Toros. So when somebody's blending, they're blending in Robusto or Toro because it's easier to go down in size from there and easier to go up in size from there compared to if you're starting at such a small format. All right, you're starting with a 5x42, now let's turn this into a 6x60. Yeah, good fucking luck. so pretty much thanks to America, now we're, for the most part, blending's done in 50 ring gauge.
Speaking of that, what are the top selling SKUs for Aganorsa for you?
Oh, boy. This is where it gets really screwed up. So obviously,
7x70 Lunatic.
that's up there. So obviously
Is it
on
actually?
well,
Wow. I mean, it sold well here. You only have like 2 singles left in the box we had open.
I believe our top 5 SKUs. So within Aganorsa, we do all the JFR product as well, and the Lunatic. So just for retail and Lunatic. And I believe those 2 lines have all 5 of our SKUs, top 5 SKUs. I know number 1 and number 2 alternate. They kind of flip-flop back and forth. It is the Lunatic El Chiquito Maduro, which is a 4 3/8 by 70, and the JFR Maduro Titan 6x60. Those are our number 1 and number 2 SKUs in the company. And the 8x80 is top 5. So 60, 70, 80 ring gauge are 3 of the top 5.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
If I had to guess beyond that, probably Corojo Titan is probably in there as well. It could be another JFR Maduro like Robusto or Toro or huge sellers as well. And again, it just goes back to what we were talking about before. It's a guy comes in, hey, I can buy 2 or 3 cigars for $30, or I can walk out with 4 or 5 of these, and it's you're getting a high quality product at a great price point. Guys just grab a handful of them, and on the way they go.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
It's definitely another thing we see with 8x80s as well. Like, there's not a lot of people that smoke 8x80s. But when they do, typically they come in, you'll see them a couple times a week. They grab 3 or 4 of them. There's only so many 8x80s on the market. So it's really only a handful of people that really drive the sales of that. But again, for the most part, that's all that they fucking smoke. So it doesn't really matter. Like, you don't have to worry about that guy going to, like, try to get that guy a 6x60. He thinks it's, to us. That's,
Yeah, that's his Corona.
Yeah, exactly. I said that's his petite Corona, freaking 6x60. Like, what's this thing?
One of the things about the JFO and the Lunatics that I've appreciated is before. So when I first started here about 2 years ago, I looked at those cigars and it was like, like $6, and I was a new tobacconist, so I automatically assumed that sucks. And then Terrence came. And he did that. He had the fumas,
the fuma tasting, yeah.
of the tobacco that's in the Lunatics, and I was smoking those, and I'm like, I really like this, And then I bought a Lunatic, and it was the Short Titan.
That's a
JFR.
great cigar, the Short Titan.
Yeah, and I smoked it, and I was like, I'm never judging anything ever again, Like it was phenomenal. And then the thing about even when you go to the bigger gauges, I had a 60 gauge once, like the Perfecto, like the football looking.
Oh yeah,
one.
the Locos.
So I had one of those, and it's like, even though it's a big gauge, it still has that like full body, that nice spice, like those like expressions you look for from Nicaraguan tobacco. And it's impressive that, opposed to like other 60 gauges I've had, it's like, Aganorsa can really keep their flavor when they go in the bigger Vitola.
Yeah, it's really just keeping things simple. Like I said, pretty much when we do those fumas, the reason that we do that is, again, there's just 2 seed varieties that we grow predominantly in Nicaragua. Those 2 seed varieties are in every single cigar we make. It could be a Connecticut Robusto, or it can be an 8x80 Maduro, Corojo 99, Criollo 98. Those 2 tobaccos are going to be used in there in some way, shape, or form. So, again, like I said, just keeping it simple, it works. But, definitely don't sleep on JFR. Especially, that Corojo that's an excellent cigar. I almost wish it didn't have the pigtail on it, because that kind of gives it away. Because that's one of those cigars I'd love to take the band off and just mess with people. Be like, smoke this. Like, it's some $15 cigar I picked up somewhere. What do you think? And it's like, you get done, oh yeah, that was a great fucking cigar. Yeah, it's $6 for a Robusto.
Very cool. Now, this week is also TPE, Total Product Expo. You would think it would be Total Tobacco Expo, but it's not totally about tobacco.
Nah, definitely not. I have not been to this one yet. I'm trying to avoid it as long as possible, but I think next year I'll probably have to bite the bullet in its end.
And go for it. Now, Terrence is there?
Yep, Terrence is there.
Terrence is there. So what's, is he showcasing anything special for Aganorsa there, or?
So there's nothing crazy new coming out. We do have a couple line extensions I'm very excited about. So within the Lunatic Maduro line, we're coming out with a 7x70 and a 6.5x60. I guess now those are somewhat traditional format sizes in the American market.
Yes.
But 2 sizes that you would think you would have in a product line like Lunatic. Like I said, that's our number 2 line after JFR. We didn't have a regular standard 60 ring gauge. We had the Short Titan, but not a 6x60 format, which, let's face it, Robusto Toro 6x60 are
That's basically it.
that's the trifecta right there. So not having a 6x60, huge. And again, we had the 70 ring gauge, but short as well. And there's a big draw for 7x70s. So we do well with the JFR 770s, but we find a lot of 770 smokers want a stronger format, and a Lunatic has a little bit more pop to it than JFR does. So I think the Lunatic kind of ramping up that strength and that body a little bit in the 770 format, especially at the price point. It's going to be $10.49 for a 7x70, and a 6.5x60 is $9.49. So killer price points, quality product. Those 2 should be home runs. Then JFR fresh packs. Again, this one, I'm telling you earlier, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
Yeah, $24.99 for the JFR fresh pack. So it's a 4-pack of JFR Toros. It's 2 Corojo Toro, a Connecticut Toro, and a Maduro Toro. $24.99 retail.
That's awesome.
So I had a question about the fresh packs. So It's just because there's such a trend of fresh packs coming. Everyone's doing it now. You know, like, so, and a lot of the companies started doing it during COVID. So, why the fresh pack? Is it a attempt to have product be able to be sold at non B&Ms, like traditional tobacco B&Ms, since, you know, most like gas stations or whatever don't have humidors, or is that merely a convenience for the consumer?
I think it's a little column A, a little column B. I'm not gonna lie. When companies first started doing fresh packs, I absolutely hated them. You can ask Terrence. I fought with him on the phone numerous times about this. I'm like, don't do fucking fresh packs. I think they cheapen the brands. You saw some of the initial ones in the beginning really actually hurt some manufacturers.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, you put a 4-pack of, cigars that are typically, $12 to $13 and up. You know, that pack should be, $50, $55 retail. And it's like, okay, this one's $34.99. It's like, that's a massive discount. So instead of people buying that single for $13, $14, they're just buying the packs.
Right.
So you're kind of cannibalizing your own brand.
Right.
So I was never a big fan of that. Obviously, other companies absolutely nailed it. Perdomo. I mean, there might be a small discount in there.
Yeah, there's
but for the most
little
part,
discount.
yeah, but for the most part, it's the convenience of I don't have a humidor, or I'm going to the golf course. I need 4 cigars. They're already in a humidified pack. This is perfect. So there's a convenience factor there. For some manufacturers, absolutely, being able to place it in C-stores, I'm sure that was absolutely a thought by, some of the juggernauts out there. I think it was it Macanudo did those little individual, the single sleeve ones? Like, that's 100% a product made for C-stores. For us, it was more basically just market demand. Our brick and mortar retailers kept on asking us for fresh packs. So that's really the reason that we did it. And again, for us, it's not about really discounting the product. Like you said, even though that JFR fresh pack sounds like it's an insane deal, those are $7 cigars. So 4 of them would be $28 anyway. So yeah, it's a couple bucks off, but it's not, about like, we're not deep discounting this to move this product. More just our retailers were looking for the product, looking for, that item, a fresh pack. So for us, it was really just,
Well,
what our retailers want, we're going to try to accommodate them.
When it's a variety fresh pack like that, where you have, the 3 different varieties inside the pack, then people maybe try something that they wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, that's the other nice part with it. And this is one thing we've kind of gone over. It seems like different regions of the country, some of them really do well with variety packs. Others do well with just 4 of the same cigar. I'd like to see 4 of the same cigar because, obviously, like I said, guy's coming in to go golfing with his buddies.
Yeah.
And it's like, this packet's got, 1 Maduro in it, 2 Corojos, and a Connecticut. It's like, he just wants 4 mild cigars for him and his boys, to go out and keep the flies away on the golf course, man.
I want to. Where do you think that demand came from? Again, from my experience here, I don't have people running in here asking me specifically like, oh, does this brand have a fresh pack you guys can bring in? Other with the exception of Perdomo, which I think dominates the fresh pack.
Yeah, they definitely
those things. It's its own animal, but. No one's really come to me and been like, I really want a good fresh pack, or I want like a nice. I mean, we do have people that get variety packs, but they're looking for, it's more of a gift thing. It's not like someone coming in buying for themselves. So, when Aganorsa was being requested to do this, like, what was the feedback specifically? Like, was it gift things? Was it people, they just want like this, they don't have humidors? Like,
yeah, what I think it is? It's really. And again, I think this kind of comes back to all of us kind of being cigar geeks. Like, we look at it a little bit differently compared to, really the silent majority of consumers. Like, let's face it, 70-80% of consumers, if not more, are coming in just looking for a mild cigar. They don't smoke that often. They want convenience. And those are the same people that, for the most part, aren't going to come up to you being like, hey, why don't these guys make a fresh pack? They're just kind of like walking in there just like, somebody help me out. I just need a couple cigars. What's convenient? What's easy? Price point. And I think it's, like I said, more that majority consumer that isn't nearly as vocal as, we are, or, the regulars that we converse with on a, more common basis. So I think it's really, your more casual smokers drive that. As far as, I mean, I'm not going to lie, in my territory, I didn't have a ton of retailers coming to me and being like, Brett, I need a fresh pack. I'm going to kill it with these. It was definitely other territories were much more adamant about it.
Okay.
It seems like Texas, for some reason, Texas wanted fucking fresh packs.
I
other-
can see Texas needing it just because there's probably such a problem with humidification.
Yeah.
You know, the air is so hot and dry over there.
Yeah. Wish I had a better answer for you, but again, in my territory, I definitely had some people asking me for it, but nobody was like, gave me a real specific answer, and it wasn't like overwhelming. Like on occasion, somebody would be like, you know, when you guys gonna come out with a fresh pack? It wasn't like they didn't like really break it down for me. Like, you know,
We
you
saw
took
a
this
lot of
cigar,
them at Hooks.
put in a
It's
fresh
crazy.
pack, it's gonna kill it for, you know,
hard to
this
keep
reason.
aside.
But
And then my last question with the fresh packs would be, so you said it's 4 of the same cigars in the fresh pack, or
so it's 4 JFR Toros. It's a Connecticut, 2 Corojo, and a Maduro.
okay,
So it's a sampler.
all right. So that's different. I thought it was going to be 4 of the same cigars, and that would be a different, because I don't
think
think
in the
anyone
future we
does
might.
that.
Perdomo does the champagne packs.
Oh, yeah, but that's
Yep.
champagne. But yeah. So all right, yep. So never mind.
Yeah, but I think that's. I mean, those
They fly.
They
yeah,
fly.
they fly.
They fly. I think you could, if you're going to do fresh packs, you might as well do variety and same cigars.
Yeah, I mean, personally, again, I don't know anything about the sales end of things. I know nothing about it, but I would never do like for me, the champagne packs. Those guys would buy 4 champagnes out of the box if they didn't have that champagne pack, in my opinion. So it is a discount. You have to make the pack. You have to get the built-in humidification in the pack. So that's just me. But again, I don't know anything. Maybe it does upsell people because they think it's a bargain. They buy 2 more than they would have if they walked in the store. So I'm not sure. But
I think that's generally the idea. If somebody's going to buy 2 or 3 and they spend, $4 or $5 more, they get an extra cigar. They get the extra cigar.
I think it's probably the biggest thing that we haven't mentioned yet is probably brand awareness. So especially Perdomo, those fresh packs, they have the stand-up display.
Yep.
So let's face
Well,
it.
and then
Are we
along
getting
with
a
the-
nice little display?
No.
along with the brand awareness though,
Not
then the person's carrying around that bag.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they take it to the golf course, handing the people see that. They see the brand, they see the bag.
a lot of
they
people buy it once just to get the bag, and they just keep buying it when
keep
they need
using
another
it.
bag.
Yeah. So even if it ends up being filled
Like
with
I have
somebody-
a guy that comes in and just buys a few cigars every Sunday, and he just puts it in a Perdermal bag that has no Perdermals in it.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, it's like a lot of those customers are coming in. Like, how often do you see a guy come in, he grabs 1, 2, 3 fresh packs, and literally just goes right to the counter, cashes out, and leaves? He doesn't even go in the walk.
So that's
He
the other
just
thing I
grabs
was going to
fresh
say
packs.
is most fresh pack people, like, that's why, like, it's almost like
Fresh
that whole
pack people.
gas station kind of,
Yeah.
thought experiment is they just come in, they beam it right to the fresh packs, they pick them up, they check
Yeah,
out. You
yeah.
barely have to even say hi to them. And if
Yeah.
you say hi to them, they want to say hi back. They're laser focused on the fresh pack.
We're in New England. We're not the friendliest bunch up
Where's
here.
my dang fresh pack?
And then if we don't have the fresh packs, God help us. Like I gotta make sure I gotta check my tailpipe on the way out of work. Like.
But here's the flip side of that. So imagine,
I
like,
mean your cars. Kid.
so
Oh yeah, my car.
Banana, my
I
tailpipe.
thought that would be assumed that that's what I meant.
if you didn't have those
It's a
fresh
cigar
packs,
podcast, so.
what does that customer go and buy? So it's a casual smoker, doesn't really know what he's going to smoke. He sees that fresh pack as he's going in, $25, $30 for 4 mild cigars. He's like, perfect, just grabs it, goes to the counter and leaves.
So I haven't
Yeah, it's
answered
an
this
easy
one.
decision.
So, but
It's an
if-
easy decision.
But
there
if
is-
that wasn't there, what would he go in and buy?
Well, he
He'd probably
goes
go
in and he buys 4 Perdermos and he just bitches about it being
No,
$3 more.
So I'm saying, like, imagine that. So 100%, again, going back to, like, the silent majority of smokers. So this is a guy that doesn't even know, like, what the hell Perdomo is. He comes in and, like, what are the brand names that he knows? He knows Macanudo, Monte Cristo, Cohiba. So, like, if that fresh pack wasn't there before he went into the walk-in, what's that guy going to go in and buy? He's probably going to walk out with 4 Monte Cristo whites. Or he's going to walk out with 4 Macanudo Cafes, Romeo
Yeah.
Bolis, something like that. But because you have those fresh packs outside the humidor, imagine how much market share Perdomo's taken from, those macro brands like that just by doing the fresh packs. So for them, it's been absolutely dynamite to be able to capture consumers. And that's where I was getting at, with brand awareness. Because I'd imagine a lot of people are smoking fresh packs. They're not guys that were smoking champagne before, all of a sudden like, oh, it comes in a 4-pack with a Boveda in here? Oh, that's amazing. I got to have that. It's like, nah, I think it's, for the most part, the vast majority of people that are smoking them are probably consumers that they did not have before. And again, it's probably coming from, really, that lion's share, like I said, macro brands. Those guys that are coming in just going to buy, your name brand stuff. Able to capture that smoke. And honestly, those are the hardest consumers to capture by far. Outside of like the guys that only smoke, Opus and Padron, Davidoff guys are kind of in the same vein, but it's like getting that guy that, only smokes, once or twice a month. He likes smoking, but it's not like that big of a hobby for him. He's not like on Facebook groups. He's not getting aficionado. Yeah. Like he has no idea, who the hell's Warp Cigars, who's Tatuaje, Illusion, like small boutique brands. He's like, he has no idea what any of that stuff is. And those are the far and away the hardest consumers to capture. And again, at the end of the day, they're still the majority of smokers out there is the casual consumer. I said, for us, we definitely get wrapped up in, our regulars, guys that are coming in every single day.
Yeah.
They come in at events, they buy boxes of cigars. That's really what we get wrapped up in. But like I said, that vast majority of, milder cigar smokers that are still just smoking those macro brands. And
I'm going to, unless
those are the
Dan
hardest
has
guys to switch over.
I have one more topic.
Please.
So, Aganorsa obviously is one of the, I'll call it like you guys are very vertical, so you guys are like a titan manufacturer to me, so you guys have a lot of tobacco that other companies utilize in their blends. So, the one that comes to mind is, for instance, like Foundation, the Olmec we chose is our blend of the year, which to my knowledge has Aganorsa filler tobacco in there. If not the Olmec, then at least the Wise Man. I know it's
Wise Man does. I think Olmec is AJ.
It's AJ. All right,
I'm pretty sure Olmec's AJ.
So I'll take the Wise Man, for instance.
Yep.
So, and I'm sure there's other lines out there too that use Aganorsa tobacco. I mean, I think like Kurt's partial owner of Sindicato. I think Sindicato uses Aganorsa
some of the
tobacco.
Sindicato stuff we do. Yep.
So as a rep, like obviously like Aganorsa and then the private labels is what you're selling, like HVC. So what is your kind of thoughts on like, say you're having an event and then somebody is looking for different options and like maybe like a Sindicato, like a Wise Man comes to mind. Like obviously it doesn't really benefit you for your company's sales, but it also indirectly kind of does benefit because they're using your tobacco. So do you ever kind of get behind another one of those lines, even though they're not under your umbrella, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie, there's not a ton of scenarios where I've felt I've had to go that route because I feel within our portfolio, we kind of cover most of the bases. So like if somebody is looking for one of those kinds of products that uses our tobacco, I can probably put them on one of our products because, again, it's our factories, our farms, our tobacco. So for the most part, there's something comparable. I'm trying to think if there's any like curveballs out there. The only thing I could think of, like maybe like some of the older like Viaje stuff, like some of the older Viaje stuff was just, even though it was coming from us, it was just like, it was a fucking powerhouse. Like things were just strong, man. Like they're really strong, really peppery cigars. And I'd almost put that like in the same category. Like there's a handful of cigars, like when I'm doing an event, like, oh, hey man, how's it going? Running a promo on Aganorsa, the bullshit spiel that we got to give when people come in.
Bullshit. Don't think about that, Terry.
This is why we try not to just stand behind a table and do, hey man, doing buy three, get it, I'll give you another cigar for free. That's why we
Aganorsa, dude.
That's why we do the fumas.
Yeah.
Bring the customer in.
It's the rarer leaf.
Yeah. But yeah, really, there's only like a handful of brands where like if somebody comes in, like I smoke, Davidoff, Padrones. And again, it's not because I don't think that they wouldn't enjoy my cigars. It's pretty dumb to downsell a customer. Guys coming in to buy a handful of, $40, $50 cigars. Hey man, try this $7 JFR. Yeah, I think the retailer would really love me for that. Yeah. Probably wouldn't be too fucking thrilled. Really, the only
you
other
have
one,
to be sensitive to that.
Yeah, I mean, really, like the other one is like La Flor Dominicana is always a funny one. Like guys, like I smoke nothing but DL 700s and Diggers. I'm like, just go smoke those, man. Like I got absolutely nothing like that. Great cigars. Just go grab some of those. I'm not even gonna bother you, dude, because we got nothing that's even in that strength profile. And again, being 100% Dominican, it's just night and day difference from what we do as a company. Again, getting back to the core point of your question, I don't think I'd have, like I said, really much of an issue just putting him on something else Aganorsa. Like I said, again, just because it's our factories, farms, similar tobaccos. Again, it's blended by somebody also, so there's definitely going to be differences. So it's really going to be up to consumers, figure out which one they prefer more. Like,
are you guys ever going to do anything like a seconds, like factory smokes or anything like that?
Now we have some bundles, but nothing like seconds or anything like that. Yeah, no plans for that.
What about the other way? I mean, it seems like I see a lot of companies that have been around for a little bit, all of a sudden trying to come out with a really kind of high end. So even if it's a limited thing, I mean, you brought up Foundation. They came out with a Senator, you know, a $30+ cigar. My father just came out with a $40, you know, I want to say
Florida Los Antilles.
Florida
10
Los-
You have the 1935,
Los Antilles.
1835, no, 1935, Monte Cristo. That's considered like, you know, for them
Yeah,
top line
yeah,
as
that's
well.
high end stuff, you know, and you know, so like with the Antilles, you know, the average cigar is 9, 10, $11. Now they come out with a, you know, 10-year anniversary. It's, you know, $40. Does Aganorsa, you know, have plans to do something like that where they take like a rare leaf or Supreme Leaf and they come up with here's the frickin' best of the best. It's, you know, $30.
How many people watch this show? Can I let it fly on this one?
Yeah, you can let it fly. Sure, there's only like 4
I'm not gonna lie,
people.
stuff like that is absolute bullshit. You have a $10 fucking cigar you put in a coffin, now all of a sudden it's fucking $40. Yeah, come on. There's no like, nobody's putting like some crazy, again, going back to tobacco. It's like,
Yeah,
what are you putting in it to make it, you know, a $40 cigar? And it's not even just a knock on, you know, that one brand. It's anybody. It's doing stuff like that. This is why it's a little ridiculous, and this is why we didn't go that route during COVID. When everybody was getting, you know, their government checks, like there was a high demand for $25, $30, $40 cigars. It was kind of wacky to see. We had retailers asking us for expensive cigars. At the end of the day, we just, I mean, our anniversario, try and, like, how do you up that? The cigar's absolutely fucking fantastic. Same thing like Rare Leaf. It's like, how do we make something like that better until you're just getting to a point where, I hate to say it, you're really just bullshitting the consumer. This is $40 because we put in a fancy fucking box. That's why it's $40. There's no different tobacco going in there. We're already using tobacco that's, you know, 4 or 5 years old. Like, there's not like, you know, a tiny plot like somewhere out in, you know, Jalapa where like, oh my God, this, you know, 100 square feet. This is, you know, God's gift of fucking tobacco right here. We got to charge, you know, $50 a cigar for, you know, the ones that are using these leaves. Like, that just doesn't fucking exist. So anybody that's doing stuff at that price point, it's that bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And I'm happy we didn't go that route.
What's the absolute most you think a cigar should be today?
Today, good thing you put that on there because,
Today.
man, with the way prices have been going the last couple of years,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
average
you
cigar is going
gotta-
to be
you
20
gotta
bucks
keep it-
real fast.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, a box that cost you, you know, $2 a few years ago now costs $8. I mean, you know, so obviously, you know, that packaging, you know, adds to the cost of the cigar.
So I would say, what's the highest that somebody should go?
What would you pay? What do you think is like a cigar? I mean, there are cigars that we have in the store, $120.
Yeah.
You know what? You know, is there a point at which you're like, in your opinion, after this, it's mostly marketing, or do you think? Now I will say I'm going to say there are exceptions to that, but
Marifel.
I haven't had a Marifel, so I can't.
I haven't
speak
had
to
that
it.
one yet either.
Now
So
Pat,
looking forward to smoking it.
I've never seen Pat.
Was the happiest person.
Pat's eyes.
I've never seen Pat that
Pat's
happy.
eyes were spinning like peas in
Oh
a
my
whistle.
gosh.
Now I know you hear that phrase. I actually saw why it exists because he could not look in one direction for more than a quarter second. It was all over the place. I've never seen him ooh and ah over a cigar like that.
Pat found his desert island
And
cigar.
It was better than sex.
In that case, listen, I have no idea what he's using in it. Maybe it is, hey, he's got tobacco that's 20 fucking years old and somehow still
I
has
think the
flavor
wrapper
going
is
on.
actually
But
25 years old. I think that's one
Which
of the
is-
things they disclose.
that's pretty astonishing. So at the end of the day, if you have, this is where I was going to go with this, is like the best example I could think of to justify price point.
Yeah.
That's a high-end cigar that I can really think of off the top of my head would be something like Atabey. Just because tobacco substantially aged. The cigar is aged for how many fucking years after it's rolled?
3 to 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 to 5 years post-roll, which is just simply unheard of in
Right.
the industry. It's obviously extremely high-quality tobacco. The packaging matches it. That, to me, is pretty much, if you're looking for the closest thing to justify a really high price point, to me, that's, you know,
Yeah.
that has the X factor. And that's
Yeah.
really some of the only products I can think of. The only product line I can think of that really, you know, goes above and beyond.
I've never been disappointed with the Byron or Atabay. As far as, yeah, it's expensive, but they've basically been holding on to this stuff for 10, 12, 15 years for you,
For me, it's
And
Placencia. Like the
Placencia
6.2
is-
is just
Yeah, Placencia is another excellent example.
absolutely delicious.
Mhm.
For that price point, and you're smoking that 6.2 for 2.5 hours. Whereas if you bought like a $12 cigar the same size, it's gonna last you an hour. So you get like that. I think that makes the price point totally work for me.
Yeah,
That's
it's kind of
my
funny.
that's my level. Is
No,
like
no,
the
I-
21. That's where my cutoff is.
Honestly, I wasn't even thinking of like anything like in like that like $20 to $30 price range. I was really just thinking like the really like over the top expensive stuff. Yeah, I mean a lot of stuff in that $20 price range. I mean, then you're talking obviously the Placencia stuff is top notch. A lot of Padron anniversaries, you're getting in a $20 price range. I would absolutely agree that's 100% worth it. These are just people that have been doing this for a really long time, really know what the hell they're doing. And who am I to tell the Padrones that they shouldn't sell an anniversary for $25?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think then I would be speaking out of term compared to what I was talking about before.
Yeah. No, with some of these other things.
But yeah, like I said, $50 price point on, some other stuff is just, we're getting a little greedy.
tough to
We're getting a little
swallow.
greedy.
So I want to pivot one last question on my end, at least. Of
course.
So COVID was brought up a couple of times. So a lot of companies, I think every company, stopped doing any events or traveling and all the sorts during COVID. And a lot of companies used the money that they were saving from event swag or the travel towards something like for instance, like Drew Estate did the freestyle live online. They started putting all that money towards. So what was Aganorsa's focus? Obviously, you guys came out with a rebrand, so I'm assuming that was a portion of it. But what was your focus during COVID when you guys couldn't really be, front lines?
So this is probably not the answer you're expecting. Pretty much for us. So the flip side to Aganorsa as a company is that our sales force is 100% independent reps. So when your paycheck every month comes from 100% commission, stuff you sell, I was off the road for like 10 days during COVID. Otherwise, we literally kept working. Retailers that would let us do events, we kept on doing events. During the first year of COVID, my sales were up over 40% from the year prior. So we stayed out there on the road. We kept on working. Other companies completely shut down, kept their sales force off the road. So for us, it wasn't, infrastructure, type things, where we're changing bands, changing boxes. For us, it was everybody else is, no offense, sitting on their ass, staying home. We're going to keep on fucking working. Because honestly, I think that's just kind of our mentality as a company to begin with.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that is, again, all of us are independent reps. If we're not selling, we're not getting any money. Like, we're not going to keep on getting a paycheck from our companies. We're like, hey, you know what, guys, COVID, stay off the road, but, we'll keep you on the payroll. It'll be all right, just work the phones, call your guys, see what you can do. That's the one thing, bringing up the Drew Estate, the Freestyle Live, and that was absolutely genius what they did with that, and that was huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge, because that's a company that really kept their sales force off the road, yet continue to grow trajectory.
Yep.
Whereas I think, you guys saw during COVID, I've kind of heard some pretty wacky numbers out there. I think during COVID, the industry as a whole might have grown, like 12 to 15%. So pretty much like, I think a lot of companies just kind of rode that tide a little bit.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, we kept on growing anyway, like it's fine. Whereas if you were out on the road, like we were, like I said, in my territory, we were up over, I believe it. If it wasn't 40, it was right there. percent over the year prior, that first year of COVID, because
That's crazy.
we just kept on going, man. Like I said, I probably did the most events in my career.
During
the 2 COVID years, we're doing a freaking ton of them.
So on the other end,
Nobody
of
else
it,
would do
though,
them.
on like the devil's advocate, like say you had somebody that was like genuinely concerned about COVID.
Yeah.
Like, would they perish under Aganorsa not meeting those numbers? Or was there something in place set up for them?
Luckily, the sales force is pretty young, so we didn't have to cross that bridge. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little cutthroat out there. So if somebody decided to stay home and not do their job, unfortunately, somebody probably would have taken their place.
Yeah, I mean, to shed light on it, like it is good that you guys are out there because I know, like, at Twins, like with the lack of events going on, like we really were looking for stuff to do in place of the reps not being able to come in and actually do anything. So it's good that you guys had the mentality of, like, to me, it's like support the B&M. Like, obviously, it's benefiting you guys personally with
Yeah,
your
of course.
sales, but it's also benefiting the B&M because we're lacking, events.
Yeah.
So having you guys visit us and look at the facings and do events and help sell like that, that was huge in that period for us as well. So.
Yeah, it was really like the first like 3 months or so where I was doing like a kind of like dumb events like here and there, just kind of like standing behind a table. Everybody's, standing 10 feet away,
Just throw them
I'm
out
throwing
of
cigars at them.
Yeah.
After that though, especially, it's up here in New Hampshire, like we didn't really shut down for that long. It was really just 3-4 months. After that, we were kind of off to the races again. Again, flip side to that, let's face it, a lot of cigar shop owners are pretty right-wing people that were like pretty business savvy that, were willing to figure out ways to, make things work despite what was going
a lot
on.
of cigar companies.
Anything happen in Nicaragua during it, or?
So, so Nicaragua shut down for 2 weeks. One of the weeks they always shut down anyway. It's a holiday week. Other than that, Nicaragua pretty much was business as usual. They put up some plexiglass dividers, things like that. People wore masks in the factory, but otherwise, again, kind of like the same thing as us. For them as rollers, if they're not making cigars, they're not getting paid. So pretty much the operations had to continue. I think that's why you see in Nicaragua, if you look at the export numbers from Nicaragua compared to Dominican Republic, like when I first went to Aganorsa, Dominican Republic was exporting more cigars to America than Nicaragua was. Now I think Nicaragua has them outnumbered 2 or 3 to 1. So, and again, talking about COVID, like Dominican Republic basically shut down for the better part of a year. And then after that, they were at 50% capacity for a long amount time after that. So again, it's not, you never want to downplay something like COVID. Obviously it affected a lot of people, but the flip side of that was obviously if you could keep working, there was upside there for sure.
Right.
And I know that like Nicaragua has had a lot of labor issues. Like for instance, like Perdermo, which is historically a very retainment company, has been losing a lot of employees. Has Aganorsa seen that kind of flack as well?
Yeah, so we've been pretty lucky with it. What it was a lot of people saw the opportunity to come to America.
Oh, sure.
That's really what it was. It was immigration.
Yep.
Let's face it, the border laws were pretty relaxed, and a lot of people made a run for it to get to America. So that's where you lost a lot of rollers. Beyond that, really, again, talking about how many more cigars are being made in Nicaragua now. It's not like, 100 new rollers are showing up, every month to, pretty much, provide the demand for,
Right.
rollers. So we said we're kind of dealing with a finite resource despite, the increase in demand. So it's absolutely an issue. That's definitely a part of where you're seeing your price increases come from on cigars. A lot of it's definitely labor.
Yeah.
I'd say the 2 biggest reasons that you're seeing the massive price increases, not massive price increases across the board and on cigars really from anywhere is, again, labor costs are increasing substantially. And then freight costs were just absolutely through the roof.
Yeah.
Like your typical container pre-COVID was $5,000-$6,000 to get it to Miami from Nicaragua or Dominican. Now it's like $25,000-$30,000 for a container shipment.
Yeah.
So between
Now
that
my
and labor
last
costs.
actual question is my last question since America was brought up is I know that Aganorsa has a Miami cigar, like the event cigar you guys were doing.
Yep.
Is there any other cigars that's rolled in Miami, or it's just that one?
We used to roll more in Miami. Basically, our rollers they're all quite elderly. We only have one left. All of them were originally rollers from Cuba that came to Miami. All extremely skilled, but we only have one left now. So she really just does the event cigars. And she actually does a lot of the fumas, which is almost criminal having such a talented roller doing fumas. But she's an amazing roller. But Anniversario used to be done in Miami. Aganorsa Leaf Maduro and Corojo used to be done in Miami. Pretty much everything's in Nicaragua now, though. Because, again, we're down to one roller in Miami. So pretty much what she does is, people come by the factory, the warehouse.
Yeah.
She's still in there working. It's part of the experience.
Yeah.
So, you want to smoke a fresh rolled cigar, from I think she's whatever the Cuban roller scale is. I can't remember what the top tier is. It's either level 7 or level 9 Torcedor. And she's the top level roller when she was in Cuba. So, she absolutely knows what the hell she's doing. It does it the old fashioned way where she does the bunching and the wrapper. So, like I said, it's a really cool experience having her down there.
So fun watching that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But as far as an actual manufacturing operation in Miami, not so much anymore.
Cool. All right. So we're just about at the end of the show here. What's the final thoughts on the Aganorsa Supreme Toro?
I feel like it's gotten creamier and sweeter with the pairing. That's I've actually I've had to remind myself to take some of the beverage just because I'm enjoying the cigar so much.
How about you, Pat?
It's a phenomenal cigar, and past years I've smoked it, I've enjoyed it, but again, like the rare leaf for me has always been kind of what I'm looking for. And it's not that I didn't understand the hype of it, but it just wasn't really something that I would buy a box worth of singles to smoke when I'm here or sitting at the lounge. But like this iteration of it being in just the regular Supreme Toro, like it's phenomenal. It's a really good consistent cigar. You get those, I'm calling Aganorsa flavors, like the nice, sweet, spicy, a little bit of saltiness. You get like those kind of floral notes out of it. Again, like that kind of brown sugar and like that kind of nice coffee note. So it's really, really good consistent cigar. And the construction was perfect on it. Even burn, nice, perfect draw. And then has a closed foot, which I wish the rare leaf had a closed foot on it, but
I'll talk with management. We'll figure it out.
now that would be the rare leaf.
Yeah, the rare leaf.
The rare leaf.
What'd you guys do with this? We closed the foot.
It's now $30.
Yeah, $30. $39.99.
Comes in a cardboard box.
Comes in a fresh bag.
100% recycled cardboard.
The rarer fresh pack.
Oh, man.
Bovita packs aged 10 years.
Yeah, I'll probably be getting some phone calls in the fucking morning. This is gonna be fun.
This has been an awesome cigar. This is the fourth or fifth one I've had. All really good. The flavor profiles you guys are talking about, totally picking up. Went great with the clover. I thought the clover was a really, really good pairing with it.
The spot on pairing. Very complimentary.
Brett, thanks for being with us tonight. This
thanks
was
for
a
having
great conversation. Hope you come back.
Absolutely.
When the
Rarer leaf comes out.
well, maybe the rarer leaf is the Twins' 25th anniversary cigar. When that's after it's finished resting in the humidor and it comes out for sale, maybe we can have you back.
We'll get the Sharpie out and just write rarer on all of them. Problem solved.
There you go.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that.
version.
Put the price up $5.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's our show for tonight. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next Tuesday, 8 o'clock. And that's not just blowing smoke.